Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dave Sands. Welcome to the Food Origins podcast. I'll be talking to people about their unique stories with food. And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support. And thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Food Origins podcast. Today, my guest is John Ferrando. John was born and raised in the Bay Area, specifically in Pacifica and San Francisco, California. John is 100% Italian, being half Sicilian and half Genovese. I met John when we worked together as police officers for the San Francisco Police Department. Food was a common conversation, especially when it came to cooking for our colleagues and talking about restaurants in the city. After retiring from the department with no formal training, John worked as a chef running the kitchen for the First Responder Service Network, working closely with the Culinary Institute of America in Napa, California. Opportunity knocked, and John took a chance to go to Costa Rica and open his own restaurant, John's Place at Jaco Beach, where he spent 2 years cooking some of his Italian favorites, local cuisine, and some summer specials. John has since sold the restaurant and is now seeking his next venture. A couple of things are in the works, and he will be announcing them very soon. Thank you to Nick's at Rockaway Beach for hosting this podcast at their location. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. All right, man, we're rolling. I am here with John Ferrando. Thanks for coming on, buddy. We are on a location in Pacifica, California, in the iconic Nick's restaurant, seafood restaurant, right here at Rockaway Beach. So appreciate you coming on, John.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So me and John, just a quick intro, and I'll let him introduce himself, but we go back working together in the same department in San Francisco. So we have a lot of history there, and of course with food as well, cooking all over the place and enjoying what San Francisco has to offer. So John, thanks for coming on, and why don't you introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I grew up in San Francisco and Pacifica. I went to Sacred Heart, spent a lot of time in the Marina area and North Beach. And also a lot of time down here in Pacifica, which was cool. I went to Skyline for a couple of years playing baseball, and then got in the department.
Pretty early, right?
Yeah, I just turned 22 when I entered.
Okay.
So that was, I'll never forget that, because I told the background investigator if I could let him know the next day, and he didn't like that too much. So he kind of made the decision for me to say yes and accept the job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got persistence, so too.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It all works out.
Yeah. To go back a little bit, did you grow up mostly in San Francisco or in Pacifica?
Well, I went to Good Shepherd in Pacifica, and then when I went to high school at Sacred Heart, yeah. I spent most of my time in the city, in the Marina, my grandparents' building, where I ended up living for a long time.
Okay. And then that gets right into what'd you eat growing up? What was that like? And what is your background? What's your ethnic background? I'm
100% Italian.
Okay.
I'm half Sicilian on my mother's side, and I'm half Genovese on my father's side. So I've spent a lot of time in Italy, in a small town called Cogoleto. It's close to Genoa, and I've cooked a lot there with my family, which was really cool. Learning how to cook Italian in Italy is priceless. It's better than any school, I believe, you can take. And just the old style. I was there in October of this last year, making, fresh pasta with some 80-year-old family friend, which was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Okay. And then, but as far as what'd you eat growing up though? Like what was family meals like?
They were here and there, I remember as a kid getting up at like 4 a.m. with my grandfather and going down to Fisherman's Wharf. We're distant cousins with the Aliotos. So I would go down there with my grandfather and they would crack all the crab and peel all the shrimp for the restaurant for that day. They would do a lot of prep, and me and my cousin Richie Alioto, God rest his soul, he's passed since, but we would run around, like maniacs. We thought we owned the wharf, and I think we ate more than they could ever pay us for, because we used to work those outside booths and the popcorn shrimp and the clam chowder and all that. And so that was, that's like a highlight. But I also remember growing up, I come from a divorced family and being with my mom, and, there was a struggle. We had eggs for dinner, which was cool. I think it was a way of my mom saving money, having breakfast for dinner. And, but ever since a young age, I always loved cooking. It was just in my soul.
Is there a time that kind of brings you back to that, like how it started? Is there kind of an impacting moment? From that?
The first time I remember always trying to take my parents' order in the morning on the weekends, to make them breakfast. And one time my mom had me make a meatloaf. She wrote down all the directions, mix this all together. And I mixed everything together and put it in the oven, but she forgot to tell me to put the meat in there. So that was my first, mess up cooking.
Oh my God,
that I remember.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So it was just the ingredients minus meat.
It was like the seasonings and the eggs.
Oh my God.
This
is flat seasoned pan.
It was like a frittata before I knew how to make a frittata.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I guess that sometimes that's what happens, like I've practically burned the kitchen trying to fry a corn dog, and as I left the oil running in a gas stove, it just burns it out, and then it just turns into smoke. So the entire ceiling gets turned into dust.
Well, I guess that's how you learn,
Yeah. And then where'd you go from there? So from no meatloaf to what else?
The meatless meatloaf. I was way ahead of my time.
Yeah.
And then, when I got in the department, I always had dinner parties, and I always cooked for people. Like it was my my therapy in a sense, working and then being off work and being able to cook for 10, 12 people. And then I got into an organization up in Napa, which was called the First Responder Service Network. And I ran that kitchen for them for a couple of years. And what we did is we had people volunteer their time from the CIA up there, the Culinary Institute of America in Napa.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to cook with some really good chefs, and I learned a lot from them. And I was actually thinking about maybe going to the Culinary Institute, but I really like the fact that I have no schooling. It's all family taught and trained, and I've taught myself a lot, and I think that's special, to kind of say I don't have any schooling, but it's all family meals. And
yeah, and it's from working in the kitchen.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was fun. That really got me into how much I really love to cook and make people happy through food. So then after that, I left and I went to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And
hold on, let's go back a little bit
Okay.
though. And I think that's something, if you guys don't know, like me and John used to work together at the department. So cooking was definitely our ace card. So like besides doing our normal job, a lot of times we get tasked to cook for holidays or special occasions, or somebody gets promoted or something. But it's most of the time a holiday where everyone's working and there needs to be food on the table, because our time is precious when it comes to eating, getting stuff to eat, because we're on the go. It's a working lunch or dinner or breakfast. So having somebody that can cook is a blessing at the station. I found out that the hard way, because the first station I worked at Northern, Steve was like, hey, we do Sunday suppers here. He's like, it's Saturday. What do you want to make tomorrow? And I'm like, whatever you guys want. And he's like, well, your tasks, have fun with it. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was my intro to cooking for everyone. And they're like, yeah, make it for about the whole shift, which is about 15 or less, depending. Then you get some stragglers, find out, oh, John or Dave's cooking.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to cruise through because he's making blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Like, tell us about some of the meals you made, and then we'll get into, progressing into leaving and stuff. But I think we have the same wavelength as far as cooking. It is a huge passion for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge passion for me. It was a huge passion when I got hurt, especially. It was something to do therapy with when I couldn't work and do other stuff to de-stress. And what were some of the meals, what were some of the family meals you were making?
Yeah, we made a lot. We did cooking as well at Central, and that I did it a lot with my partner at the time. His name was John. He liked to cook too, another Italian guy, and we would do like Sunday gravy, which we call it, which is, you make a big pot of meat sauce, is what a lot of people know it as. We call it gravy in my family. And basically in that gravy that I still do every Christmas, we put we cook sausage in there, like Italian sausage. We put hard-boiled eggs in it, which is very Sicilian, and we put like a chunk of meat, and we cook that in the sauce all day, and then usually make some raviolis or something with it, and then you have your whole meal, and we call it Sunday gravy. My cousins in New York, they'll put chicken in it, they'll put ribs in it. It basically, I believe it comes from like a leftover meal, to make ends meet, coming in from my grandparents, from Italy, and, trying to feed the family and stuff. You would just throw everything in the gravy, and you would have another meal for cheap. And so that has actually become a family staple on Christmas. Every year I cook for about 35 on Christmas Day for my family.
Nice.
Which is very awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there you go. And then I think like that's what's fun about that is you taking something that you look in the fridge and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, but it's like thrown into the gravy and it becomes another meal, and it's like feeding everyone.
Yeah. It's awesome that you can, you make stuff just out of nothing and everybody loves it, and then it becomes a staple.
Yeah. What was I know I was going to ask you if you had training. So you had no formal training. What was that like, learning on the go and working around? Got a fly flying around at us here. What was that like, working instead of trying to learn, trial by fire kind of? What was that like?
Like working with the CIA guys?
With CIA, or just, learning to cook without, anything formal base. How was that like?
Well, you spend a lot of money from messing up, I can tell you that. But you also create a lot of things. And I think that's what makes it special, is being able to create something, look at a recipe and then, veer off from it and create your own style, put your own touch into it. A lot of people ask me like, oh, what do you love cooking for? What's your favorite thing to cook? And I had to think about that for a while. And for me, I don't really have a favorite thing to cook. What I do is I really like seeing people happy. So if you were to come to me and be like, hey, John, you want to cook for me, or you want to cater an event? I'd be like, yeah, what do you want? We would go over it. But then to make what you want and see the happiness and the love that is inside the food really, really makes me happy. Like that's what I enjoy the most about it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the best part about it. Like, that's what makes it kind of therapeutic. But it's like, especially with our last job, like, they're working really hard and they're just trying to take 5 minutes out of the day to get a meal, and they get to come in and get this gourmet, from us, it's gourmet and not what they're used to, it's not fast food or anything. And it's nice to see their smile on their face, and they get to sit down and have a great meal and then enjoy it. And then, what's funny is like some of our coworkers, we cook a lot, we end up cooking a lot on different days and stuff. And then I have one, his first name's Rich. We'll throw that out there. And if you think who he is, he swears he's never had my cooking. And I'm like, I've cooked at least probably 50 times. And I'm sure you've come through the station to eat it. And he still swears he's never had it. But, you know, I'm like, and that's, you know, because I'm kind of wondering, like, why didn't you? You know, like, I know I saw you. I know what I would have grabbed you and said, hey, come here, you got to try this, like, tri-tip I made today. Or, you know, I marinated some chicken last night and it's on the grill. You got to, you know, I know I would have grabbed him and, you know, tell him to try something. So it's fun. We have a funny joke that he's never had my cooking. So,
or he's just trying to get you cook more.
Yeah, that too, you know. But, yeah, so then, you know, unfortunately you end up leaving the department, but you kind of turned around and like, were you doing, so I you know, was trying to figure out what your transition was. After you left the department, did you become a private chef for a while? What did you do after you left?
Yeah, that's when I was running the kitchen up in Napa.
Okay.
For a couple of years. And then I decided to make a move and try something out. And that's when I moved to Costa Rica.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. So tell us about that process and what was that like, and, you know, how long you were there and what you were making. But yeah, in the beginning, like just to take that huge step.
That was probably one of the hardest decisions I ever made, you know, coming from the city in the Bay Area and never leaving and always thinking I was going to be a city boy my whole life and, you know, stay in San Francisco. And so I was actually down there playing poker one night, and a good friend of mine that was living down there told me he had a condo coming available. And he's like, John, you know, you're coming down here. You should, you know, try it out. And I said, man, I don't know. You know, that's a big move. And he said, he goes, well, why don't you try it for 6 months? If you like it, you stay. If you don't, you know, you can go. And I said, I don't know. And he looked at me, and I'll never forget what he said. And he said, you know what, John? San Francisco will always be there. And I was like, man, you're right. I'm going to do it. And I went back in like November, and by the next February, I was there.
Wow. And then, you know, what made you open that spot? So you ended up opening a place called John's Place.
Yep.
And then where was it? And, you know, tell us all about that.
Yeah. So my buddy approached me, Rick. He had bought in a hotel and wanted to put a restaurant in, and he called me and said, hey, let's go to lunch. And I really didn't know what he was going to ask me, or if we were just going to go to lunch to hang out. And we go to lunch, and he says, hey man, I can't do this restaurant. Like, I'm in over my head with the hotel itself. You know, do you want to do it? And I was doing catering down there and private chef stuff. And I said, yeah, man, let me think about it. You know, this is a big step, because it's attached to a hotel. It was going to be open breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, I had to hire employees and deal with providers and deal with the language barrier in a foreign country. And, you know, I said, fuck it.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Like, all I can do is fail. And if I don't fail, you know, it's going to be a win-win. So, I said yes. And, I liked the name John's Place. And so I just ran with it.
Yeah. And then, you know, tell us a little bit about Costa Rica too. Like, what's like living there, and then, you know, what'd you end up putting on the menu and kind of playing around with some stuff there.
Yeah, Costa Rica is great. If you've never gone, I would definitely recommend it. It's got something for everybody. You know, single people, couples, families. I was in a town called Jaco Beach, and it's a great small town, a great community, very small, very local. It's got a high tourist population between like December and May. And I really immersed myself into the culture and into the local community, and met a lot of people down there, and really made some really good friends, which I'm going to miss. But then I opened the restaurant, and I really didn't know, you know, what to do, because it's, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, what do I do? It's attached to a hotel. You know, I'm going to have the tourists come down that are going to want to try the local flair and food. So it was a really like an international menu.
Mm-hmm.
So breakfast, we had like a typical Tico breakfast is rice and beans. They call it gallo pinto, with eggs and plantains, and we made homemade tortillas, and everything we did down there. I brought like, California standards on food safety, food quality, which I was able to teach a lot to my staff about that. So we did that, ceviches, nachos, but I also brought down like an original club sandwich, a BLT.
Yeah, I see you got some American classics on there. Yeah, for sure.
Well, there was a pool there too. So, during the day, people are hanging out. They want, munchies and wings and nachos. And then dinner, we did a lot. I started to incorporate a lot of my Italian dishes, which I did lasagna one weekend as a special. And the first night I sold like 2 sheet pans of it. And so next morning I had to get up really early to make another set of couple lasagnas. And then I was like, oh, okay, that was a great weekend. We did well. And then I was getting phone calls. Hey, you got lasagna? You got lasagna? So I actually put that on the menu, and it ended up being one of my best sellers in the 2 years that I had the restaurant down there. And, I got to say, it was pretty good lasagna.
Yeah. What goes in yours? You don't have to give all your trade secrets, but what's in your lasagna?
I did down there. I did a 2 meat. So I did a hamburger meat and pork, and I did a 3 cheese. So I did mozzarella, Parmesan, and ricotta.
Nice.
And then I did a heavy bolognese sauce on it, that was the 2 meats, and it was good. You got a big piece, and you got some salad with it and some garlic bread, and it was like $17. It was priced well too. And
nice.
Yeah, that was good.
Good. And then where'd you go from there? You were doing like dinner specials, right?
I was doing dinner specials. Yeah, we had New Year's Eve. I would do the 7 fish meals. The typical Italian. You met all different types of fish for dinner, and we would do, it was 7 courses. I would do pop-up dinners at a place south, at a resort south, which was Encantada. It's a really beautiful spot too. And we did Italian nights there. So the Italian was a big seller there. And I was really getting into it before I ended up selling, but
yeah, because I mean, there's probably just not that many Italian restaurants in Costa Rica, if any, right?
Well, there's a couple. There's one in town called Amontio's, and
okay.
Him and his wife are really great people. They would come and enjoy my food, and I would go and enjoy theirs. I believe they're from Rome, so there's a little different flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in part of that town for a long time, and they kind of have the Italian staple restaurant there.
Yeah.
And then in the town of San Jose, there's a couple, but not a lot.
Okay. And then, yeah, so you had 2 years there, and then what happened?
Well, I really wasn't planning on doing anything, and a friend of mine approached me, and we were talking, and he was talking about maybe coming on board and buying half of the restaurant, because it's a lot of work, like, as restaurant people know, and for me to run it by myself, 13, 14 hours a day, it's a lot. So I was also kind of looking, for a partner to free up some of my time to get my life back. And then I was like, man, I wonder if, he wants to buy it. I created this product and this model. And, so I asked him, hey, you want to buy it? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And then he approached me the next day, and he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, send me the numbers, what you think it's worth, and how you want to do it. And he did it. and the numbers came back, well. I'm very blessed and lucky. And I figured it's a business, and I was in Costa Rica for 5 years, and I can go anywhere and do anything now. And that's what really got me thinking about, selling and getting out and, maybe coming back here and opening something up, or, going to Italy and hanging out with my family for, 3 months and maybe doing something there, or kind of just taking a break after the 2-year grind.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you don't know, it's a daily constant struggle of, I call it like a juggling act. You're moving, if you've ever seen like a juggler spin plates, that's what you're doing, whether it's employees, ingredients, new recipes, old recipes, things not working, things breaking, no shows. Maybe one day you're busy, the next day it's slow, but then you have all this food. Yeah, it's quite a rodeo. But so what's now? What's on your brain now? And it's kind of, like we were talking a little bit back and forth, and what's on your brain now, or what you want to do next?
It's kind of interesting for me to be at this point in my life, coming from such a structured life of, being in the department and planning everything out and having everything planned, and then going to Costa Rica where they're very live for today. And I'm not there yet. I'm close. I'm a lot further down the road of living for today than I ever was. So honestly, like right now, I'm looking at a bunch of different options. I'm looking into maybe moving over to Texas. I have a really good buddy. His name's Tom. He owns the sandwich spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him about maybe opening a sandwich spot down there.
Yeah, they got a few, right? San Mateo or Redwood City, right?
Yeah, he has about 35.
Yeah, they're a whole bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, and his concept is, I learned a lot from Tom just about life in general. His concept is love all, feed all. That's what the sandwich spot logo is, and I really bought into that. Growing up in San Francisco in such a diverse community is a blessing in of itself. And I really like his product, his way of getting involved in the community and giving back to the community, and his style of franchising out his product, where he doesn't take a monthly profit from you. Like if you buy into it, it's yours. You work for it, you get it.
Nice.
So that's something. My cousins in Italy are in the restaurant business. My one cousin, Julia, she's graduating pastry school. And we've talked about maybe doing something there. I don't think I would do Italian because it'd be pretty hard to compete with the Italians on a daily basis and in a smaller town. So, maybe sandwiches, maybe waffles and pancakes, stuff like that you really don't get in these small towns in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Barbecue. I really love barbecue.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really good there. So my options are, I have a bunch of options, and I'm just kind of let the universe tell me what the best one is.
Where it pulls you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Which
cool.
is kind of weird for me to say when I say that every time, but it's the truth. Now it's just what the universe wants.
Totally agree with you. A lot of people would. It kind of, you have a lot of experience from all over the area, and we're right here locally in Pacifica. One of the things I like to do is give some local shout outs to some of the favorite spots that you like, especially either growing up or current spots. And, we'll put those in the show notes. But obviously, shout out to Nick's for letting us podcast here. We're in their big dining room in the back. If you ever need a private dining room, here it is. So thank you, Nick's, for letting us podcast here. But, what are some of your favorites? And, you've traveled a little bit too, so you don't have to pick just local. I know it's a lot to think about, but, give some local shout outs, some favorite spots.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Nick and Lena. I grew up with Lena, one of the owners of Nick's, and I really appreciate this. We appreciate you. San Francisco, I got to go with a couple staples. The House of Prime Rib is probably one of my favorites. I got to know Steven really well, the owner, and going there with family and friends is just it's so special and nice to be able to get in there. So I definitely recommend House of Prime Rib if you could get in. There's a couple. I just had my 49th birthday on Saturday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. And we went to Ferrando by night, which is in North Beach. And that's one of the spots that I knew the owners really well as well. Sergio, the dad, and Paolo and Nadia, the kids who are running it now. And it's just the consistency of all those restaurants is what I like about going to these different places.
Nice. A couple other things I usually ask, and gear wise, like, we love gear and stuff and tools. Is there a favorite tool or piece of gear that you use all the time and it's one of your favorite things? You're like, oh, this helps me out a lot.
I loved my sous vide.
There you go.
That was by far, we used to sous vide chicken for all our chicken because we had chicken sandwiches, chicken nachos, chicken quesadillas. And to have it ready to go and moist and juicy and flavorful, it separates a good piece of chicken from a overcooked piece of chicken.
Nice. Is there a particular model? We'll get into model brand, but is there a brand that makes that thing?
Anova?
Anovo? Okay.
Anovo, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cool. I just do that because some people go, oh, what specifically, which one? And we'll put that in the notes. And then my other thing before we close it out, it's up to you, but is there a favorite recipe or dish that everybody should try that you say, this is something you should try if you've never had it?
Man, that's a really good question. I wish you asked me that earlier. I could have thought about it more.
I know there's a lot in your head, so take your time.
No, I think everyone needs to go to Italy and try their food. I think it's. I've never been to Hong Kong or China, but I hear the same things about when you go to these countries and you try the food. It's so much better, and I don't know if it's the atmosphere, the flour, the water, whatever it is, but it brings it to a whole nother level of food. Even like in Costa Rica, where we were getting the fresh fish 3 days a week, 4 days a week for the restaurant. And
yeah.
You can taste it. You can taste the difference for sure.
I was going to ask you, like, what besides some of the dishes you mentioned in Costa Rica, you had one on, what's patacones? Is it patacones? I'm saying that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's really good. It's a fried plantain.
Okay.
So there's the yellow ones, plantains, and the green ones. And the green ones you kind of cut up in chunks and you boil it, and then you smash them down, and then you fry them. And then from there we've done like employee meals, like Patacona hamburgers, and there's places you go that, you get beans and Mexican meat and, pico de gallo and guacamole, and you make a whole meal out of it. And it's really good. The yuca down there I haven't found it up here. I think I found it once or twice. I haven't seen it since I've been back, but it's a root vegetable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good too. Same type of thing. You got to boil it. Then you can make like a yuca mash or yuca fries.
Yuca fries I've had, yeah. It's it's like, if you guys have never had it, it's like a cross between a potato and like what's the other like texture I'm thinking of? But more like a potato. But
it's like a potato. Yeah.
Radish and potato kind of mixed together. It's kind of the texture. Really tasty too. Yeah. Any other traditional like Costa Rican dishes that you think about?
The gallo pinto, the rice and beans with the salsa Lozano.
Standard, huh?
Yeah. Right for breakfast. It's good. I really like it.
Yeah, really cool. you'll close it out, and you know the floor is yours. You can say anything you want, give people advice. I'm sure you have a lot to you have a lot to offer, and I look forward to seeing what your next projects are, especially with like if you get into barbecue, man. We could talk about that all day. I'd love to visit wherever you end up, but yeah, the floor is yours. You can give advice, whatever you want to say. It's all you, man.
I would tell everyone to, if you're thinking about doing something or you have a passion, to follow it. You know, it might not make as much money, but internally you're going to be 3 times happier. And honestly, like I want to give a shout out to my family, all my friends from the Bay Area that came down and supported me in Costa Rica. You know, they took that trip multiple times. My mom, my dad, everybody for the support you got. And I wish I could have stayed down there and been a destination for everybody to come and visit and enjoy the beautiful Costa Rica beachfront restaurant I had. But it came a time where I wanted to, move on and try something new. And I think that's very important in life, to know when it's time to go and when it's time to stay. And it was a very hard decision. All my loyal customers down there, all the wonderful Google reviews we got. I think in 2 years we were at like 4.7, 4.8 stars. And I'm going to miss you guys for sure the most. And the local guys, I'm going to miss a lot of you guys. But in life, you got to make decisions for yourself. And this is one of the first decisions I've made to go to Costa Rica and then to leave Costa Rica with only worrying about myself in 49 years. So it's pretty, I don't know the word, rewarding, freeing, I guess you can say. But yeah, I'm going to miss you guys for sure.
All right, folks. That's it, man. You all good?
I'm good, yeah.
Thanks for being here, John. Appreciate you, and thanks everybody for listening. We're out. And as a quick reminder, the restaurants and gear talked about on each episode can be found on my website, foodoriginspodcast.com. I appreciate your support, and thanks for listening.